Okay, so welcome to Beauty of Colors podcast, Everett. It's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's great. Great to be here.
Good. So, Everett, tell the listeners about you and how did you overcome bullying?
Well, for myself, started I guess you could say a long way back. I was probably at 7 or 8 when it started, and it actually went up until I would say probably about this spring when I finally decided to leave my past job. So, like I experienced it through elementary and high school, and then out into the workplace as well.
So, how did you overcome it? What did you do to overcome it?
Elementary and high school, I tried to play, the good guy, not really stand up to people. If they picked on me, I went back down. So I was in quite a few fights, and a lot of those guys that bullied me always thought they were bigger than me and could really push me around until the one day they decided to push me, and it just it would go too far. And
Mm-hmm.
I know by high school there was one kid that actually had bothered me a bit in elementary school and we both went to the same high school,
Mm-hmm.
and it was probably about grade 11, no, grade 12, my last, so like the fall semester of grade 12, so my last year of high school. It was actually, I think, my vice principal or one of my teachers started noticing it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was relevant before, but they had problems with this one student, and like he had a rap sheet quite long, and even the police knew of him.
Mm-hmm.
But by the end of it, my vice principal actually came down to me, and they sat me down, had a meeting with me, and they told me, like, if anything ever really happens, unless you really put him in the hospital in a fight,
Mm.
uh, we won't be going after him or anything. So
Wow.
that yeah. So they made him aware of it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we know that you're bothering him, and you've bothered him for quite a long time, and we're not responsible for any actions that come out of it. And everyone else is well aware of it, because after he found that out, he kind of disappeared from school. So kind of moved on from there. I think with myself, through a lot of the years, I kind of put up with it. My brother bothered me at homes, and you know, growing up in a family, I'm the youngest. I was the kind of the one alienated by a lot of people. So I was just used to it. My I did have one job where I had a boss that I really didn't get along with, and there was a little bit of bullying, but I pretty much got out of there before it got bad. My
Mm-hmm.
last job is where the big one really happened, and it was actually right around the beginning of COVID. The boss that had hired me on was leaving, going to one of the big mining companies in town, and the boss they brought in was actually the head of our IT department, who years later I found out, actually, this spring, he was actually taken away from being a supervisor of people at one point in time, but they didn't want to hire anybody, so they made him our boss, and
Oh,
he really didn't seem to like me. And I went with it for a while. It put me into a massive depression, and I had anxiety, and I was taking days off work here and there because I couldn't deal with it. I reached out for help, started getting some help. Just one day, we're on a Zoom meeting. We ended the call, and I hadn't hung up. Like, we had just closed the program down, but I could still hear. And I overheard some few things that he had said about me. And from there forward, it was my one stand. First time in my life, I literally just stood up to a bully. I went right into HR the next day and told them what I had overheard, what I've noticed over the past little while. And of course, the company I work for stood behind him, not me, and sent me out to get some help. So I spent almost a year out on mental health leave. By the time I came back with a lot more stuff armed on my side, and even up until this spring, he still tried to push me along, tried to make me feel like the small guy, and that he is well superior compared to me. And by the end of it, it really didn't bother me anymore, because I just figured, well, that's the type of person he is. And like I learned through a lot of things, it's you are who you are. You can't change them. You can't change well, I could change my situation by moving on to a new job, which actually a job I worked at a long time ago that I was quite happy at. From that, it was kind of like I learned where to be happy.
okay, good. So you're in a job right now that you were before, and you were happy at that job before. You're not at
Yeah,
the same
yeah.
job where they're bullying you, where they were bullying you. Okay. So would you say the challenges and struggles of being bullied throughout the years have made you a stronger person because you stood up to this boss? So have that made you a stronger person?
Yeah, I've even my wife has started to notice that I become a little bit stronger. People cut me off in line. Where before I would just, walk away or shrug it off. Now I'll stand up to people and be like, seriously, that was your first. I'll tell people how it is. And, if somebody calls me on the phone, starts screaming at me, at my job now, I just kind of like, I don't have to take this. And, I give them their 3 warnings, and the third warning, I'll just hang up. Where before I would just be like, I'll just push through it. So I found that, going out and getting the help
Mhm,
for anxiety and depression really helped me
mhm.
and made it a little easier for me to stand up towards bullying.
That's great. That's great, Everett. What would you say to children who have been bullied now?
Stand up for yourself is one of the big things. I tell my son that a lot because I know he's had one kid in his class that bothered him about that, and I said just stand your ground
Mhm,
and stand up to him. I said that's the best thing you can do, because when you allow them to push you around, it makes them feel like they're bigger and they can get away with it. But when
mhm.
you literally stand your ground and hold yourself on it, it kind of shows them it's like, whoa, I can't do that. They do have limits.
But now, Everett, the bullying is done via social media now. It's a little different. Well, it's not
Yeah.
different. The avenue is different because when you were bullied, it was physical, like not physical, but you were present.
Yeah.
With social media, the children are not present. How
Yeah.
can someone prevent being bullied on social media?
I would say I've gone through a bit of that with that's one of the reasons why I really don't talk to my brother a lot. It's a lot of back and forth, and him trying to having that superiority complex against me. For myself on social media, I've kind of gotten away from it, like on my own, my own website and that. I still use it for business purposes, but I've kind of backtracked away from it just because I found there was a lot of negativity, and it seems to be the area a lot of people go for just a negative thought.
Mhm.
And even if I find people on there now, you know, I I just don't get into it. I look at it and say that's their opinion, and I walk away. For kids, I know some kids just won't, because I know if there was social media when I was back in my day, these kids would have tried to find me online and post stuff and all that. And that's the worst thing, because it's even harder to fight too. And unless you can try and get actual actions against you, police and that won't really start building a case or anything against them really until it's hit a peak. And I know that's the same with like mental health issues and that. Really, until you like hit the wall, there's no real help.
So would you say to those kids or whoever is on social media being bullied, just stay away from social media or just don't participate in what the bully people are saying? Just ignore it.
Yeah, try not to participate and ignore it. Um, Best solution right away is, block them from your account so they can't try and get in. And if you have friends that are with them, then try and limit your friends to make it so that, people can't just come in from that you don't know and come and see your social media status and that. I know I've done that with past friends and family members as well. So try and keep them from even seeing stuff.
Well, that's a good way to stop the bullying, just blocking whoever is bullying. That's good actually. Um, you do have a podcast. What is it all about?
Uh it's about cars. I'm a
Oh,
car
it's
guy. Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's different. It has nothing to do with bullying. I thought it did.
No, no.
Okay. So you just talk about cars. That's about it in
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
podcast.
the automotive industry, the history, cars. I have my own site where I rate cars every year.
Mhm.
So it's pretty big. I'm a
Okay.
big car fanatic. Like my office is covered and stuff.
Is that the industry that you're in right now, like working?
Actually, my day job, I am not. I'm actually in construction for estimating.
Okay, okay.
But my passion has always been cars, and wanted to get into the industry. It's been rough for me,
Mhm.
but I've done it as best as I can to try and get it myself.
Okay, sounds good. Like you're doing something you love. That's
Yep.
good. So do you have any last words for the listeners on keeping their heads up and being confident in themselves?
Know that you're worth as much as you are. No matter how many people tell you you're not worth it, like um, well, even with my podcast, when I first started my podcast and my website, I have family members, like people really close to me telling me, it's not a business, you don't make money, it's not worth it, constantly putting me down. And these are people that, they're part of your family you have to see and hang out with, and they're the ones putting you down. And at the end of the day, they're bullying me. And for my stand up to them is, I don't care. This is my passion. I love it. Like myself, I get up at 5 a.m. in the morning to do work before I go to work. And some people think I'm crazy because it's like, well, you don't make much money out of it. I said, well, but I love doing it. And that's the best way to stand up to a bully, especially family and friends, is basically just tell them, like, no, this is what I love. This is me. This is who I am. And this is why I'm doing it. The more confidence you have in yourself, the less you question yourself on why you're doing it, the better you'll get at it, and the happier you'll be.
Yeah, that is so true. So where can the listeners get in touch with you?
With me, they can find me on social media, on my website, autolooks.net. All my connections to my social feeds are right there. And then getting hold of myself, email at autolooks.net is usually the quickest, easiest way, because my phone's usually by me even when I'm at work, and I answer emails there.
So thank you, Everett, for being on Beauty of Colors podcast.
Thank you for having me.